Hey guys, Dan here with Dan Reviews It, and I've got my buddy Melissa over the Zoom. Say hello, Melissa.
Hello.
How's it going over there?
Quarantining away.
Yes. Yeah, so in the spirit of the quarantining away, I've been putting up videos every single day. We're now in the 50-day mark, by the way. This is day 52, I think, of the quarantine.
Wow.
Managed to get a video up every single day about something or other. So a show that Melissa and I really loved that came out recently was Dead to Me, and season 2 is just about to start on Friday. You didn't put this in your top 10 of the decade, did you?
I don't think so. I don't know if I forgot about it or it just didn't hit as high as some other things. I mean, I forgot about it. I mean, there's so many things that could happen. But we did that. It's sort of in the fall, maybe. No,
I think we did it in like December or
yeah.
January.
So
I hadn't seen this show by then. I think I saw the first episode, but I didn't go all the way through the season. And I kind of wasn't putting things that like only were on 10 episodes or whatever in my list anyway, so I wouldn't have put it in.
It was a little early for me to say, top of the decade, especially since it came out right at the very end. Also, I mean, if you'd only seen the first episode, I'm not sure I'm rushing out to, to tell everybody about it just after that.
Yeah. Although I did love the first episode, but yeah, I mean, I looking at the whole season now, it's certainly one of my favorite shows that's currently on. And I'm excited for season 2. But I thought in the spirit of season 2 coming out, we would take a look at season 1, do a nice little wrap up, talk about each episode, talk about the characters.
Yeah, and in case you haven't seen it, then you can get a little recap, see if you're even interested.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many things going on in every single episode. We are going to be discussing the plot, so we'll certainly be dropping some spoilers into the mix if you haven't seen it at all. But if you're curious, this might be a good way to start. So the basic premise is Christina Applegate plays Jen, who is mourning the loss of her husband, Ted, who was killed by a hit-and-run driver pretty much right before the first episode here, very soon before.
It was only several months. I actually marked that later on. So I was like, how long has this been?
Oh,
no. Bring it up. It's like 3 months.
Okay. I thought it was actually a bit quicker than that, but okay. So 3 months.
At that point in the series, so maybe a month or 2. I think we start out somewhere in there.
Okay. And so there she meets Judy, who is played by Linda Cardellini of Freaks and Geeks fame and ER. And she is mourning the death, so we think, of her fiance, Steve. And then it moves on from there. I mean, that's the very very plot synopsis of the show. Jen is basically looking for her husband's killer, and Judy is more or less looking for a friend, and that sort of thing. So I guess before we get into the specifics of the episodes, let's talk about our love for the one and only Christina Applegate.
Absolutely. Well, first, I just want to point out, we've got Judy Hale and Jen Harding. We've got JH and JH.
Oh, okay.
What do you like? I'm just like, what are they doing here?
Interesting.
I'm wondering if it's really more similar than you think they're going to be at the beginning. So we'll talk about that at the end. But I wanted to bring it up before we start.
I didn't pick up on that. Very interesting.
Oh my gosh, Christina Applegate. I mean, I've loved her. I mean, she started out being, started working in the 80s, but I mean, just all throughout her career. I don't know if you watched Up All Night, which was one of her last sitcoms.
Yes, I did. It's
Um,
about the only good thing Will Arnett did other than Arrested Development. All his other shows have been horrible. But I did enjoy Up All Night. I know
you
you're
know I loved Samantha Who.
Yep, I was just gonna say you're a big Samantha Who fan, as am I. I'd seen a few episodes here and there, but like 2 years ago, I went through both seasons. Um, I must have been on some sort of Melissa McCarthy kick because I think that was the same year I watched The Gilmore Girls for the first
Oh,
time.
yeah, she was great in
But
Samantha Who also.
she really was.
She was excellent.
Yeah, so we love that. And I, of course, go back to the Married with Children days. I was a big
I was
Fox
sort of,
fan.
I mean, we weren't allowed to watch Married with Children, but I definitely got to sneak around and watch a little bit of that.
Yes. And you're a bit younger than me too. So, I was only, I think 10 when Married with Children came on to begin with. So you were just a baby. So you probably caught it more in reruns than anything.
Yes, it was like the 7:30 slot show on some network, on maybe like TBS or something at one point. I always loved the movie Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Oh, yes. It's one of my favorites. I have it right here in my
love how
collection.
smart she is in that.
Yeah.
Compared to the, dumb blonde Married with Children, I just think she's not just a pretty face.
Well, that movie specifically really showed her versatility because it was her first really starring role in a movie, and we all only really knew her as Kelly Bundy. So yeah, that's a underrated classic, I think.
And then now we've got bigger, Anchorman, Bad Moms. She won for her hysterical role as Rachel's sister on Friends.
Yes, I always forget that because, of course, I love Reese Witherspoon as well, and she was the other sister.
Well, actually, I think she was the sister, and there's the episode that Christina Applegate is the other sister, in fact.
That's true, yes, because Reese was on first, I guess.
But perfect, hysterical.
And I don't think you quite go back as far with Linda Cardellini as I do. Go ahead. Huge Freaks and Geeks fan. That's like one of my all-time favorite shows. Joe and I, in fact, after Frasier Friday is done in a couple seasons, we're going to be doing Freaks and Geeks Fridays.
I have watched Freaks.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right.
I loved it, but I watched it when you could binge it later on some streaming.
Okay.
I don't remember when, maybe a summer or two ago. Loved it. I can't believe it got canceled. I remember watch it when it was out, and it just was. It was before DVR, and I couldn't really get.
Well, it wasn't a hit when it was out.
Well, even so, I was drawn to wanting to watch it. I think I was in high school at the time, so it was like 2000.
Yeah. It was 99, 2000.
Okay, so I was a freshman, sophomore in high school, so it was I was the demographic, right?
Perfect.
There. Yeah. So I loved her in that. Apparently she was in Good Burger, which I don't remember, but I did see that in the theater.
Okay. I've never seen Good Burger, to be honest.
Okay.
But
huge
ER
fan.
Love ER. Yeah.
Yep. Obsessed. Not quite as much as my sister. She had the little role in Back Mountain. So what I wanted to bring up about her, though, was that the wide range of age she seems to sort of be able to play.
Yeah.
I want to bring up Mad Men. She was 38 when she did Mad Men, and she looked like she was supposed to be playing someone in her 50s.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know she was on Mad Men.
Yeah, she played this neighbor who ends up being, I don't want to give too much away on other things, but he ends up being a romantic interest for someone, and the idea is she is supposed to be fairly older than the person's typical, female companion. And it really seems like she's supposed to be in her 40s, at least 50s. I don't know. It just seems much older than what she's playing here. So still really talented. And of course, Legally Blonde, Chutney.
Yeah, I mean, right, Legally Blonde, and two of her big movie roles. Velma and Scooby-Doo, the live-action Scooby-Doo
I have
movies.
not
I've
seen
never
that.
seen. I've not seen them either, but I know that's a big role for her. And I know you don't watch the Marvel movies, but she plays Hawkeye's wife, so she's been in a couple of the Avengers movies where we've got some backstory about those characters. So very, very versatile. Both of these ladies, very, very versatile. And before we get too into the episodes as well, one of my favorites is James Marsden in everything. Probably Hairspray, I think, was maybe the first time. I had known who he was from other roles, but when Hairspray came out and he did Corny Collins, I was all in on James Marsden.
I wasn't sure if you were gonna bring him up yet or not, and we'll see why when we
Yes, that's all I'll say about him. Because I think we'll be talking more about the episodes and less about the actors in them as we get into the episodes. But
absolutely, he's fabulous. Big fan.
Had to speak very well about Marsden. So, okay.
And I think he's really cast perfectly here. And I'll talk about that at the very end as well.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that too. So so we're going to go through all the episodes, and then as sort of a wrap on the whole season, and then sort of what we hope to see in season 2, where we think maybe the storyline goes from here. As far as I know, it's going to be another 10 episodes in season 2. I know Netflix sometimes mixes it up, but for the most part, whatever they give the one season, it seems to be pretty consistent throughout.
It seemed like a good arc. I thought 10 was the right amount. You and I had spoken about how, am I going to rewatch? Am I not? I had, for some reason, thought it was an hour-long show, but they really pack a lot into a half hour. I kept getting confused. I actually rewatched. I'd seen it originally, and I rewatched yesterday, and I kept being like, oh, this episode's still on? Like, I couldn't believe how long the episodes.
It's because, you said it though. They pack so much story into an episode. There's not a moment of this show that's wasted. So that is maybe why it seems like, this could easily be a 40-minute, 45-minute show, but it's not. So, all right, well, let's get started here, going through episode by episode. So in the pilot, like I mentioned, Jen meets Judy at the support group. They become very good friends. And we learn a little bit about the backstory. We learn that Jen has an obsession of trying to figure out who murdered her husband. And she, anytime she sees a car with any sort of front end damage, she, looks at it and tries to survey whether or not she thinks this is the car or whatever.
She's taking down license plates left and right.
Taking down the license plates. And then we also find out in the pilot that Steve, Judy's fiance, didn't die. He is alive and well, and they just are no longer together. And so she turns out, mourning that, but also mourning miscarriages that her and Steve suffered. So that's really why she is at the support group in the first place. And then at the tail end of the pilot, we discover that maybe Judy has more responsibility than she's letting on in the hit and run, as we discover she's got a car very consistent with the damage that Jen is looking for. So this is all in the first episode.
So I start off being like, oh, why aren't we ending on this cliffhanger when, we find out that Steve is alive? When she opens the door, when Jen opens the door to go to Judy's house, what she thinks is Judy's house, and she ends up seeing Steve, I thought the episode was ending. We had another 15 minutes.
I thought the same thing. I was like floored that that's not what happened. And what's funny is, with my weekly TV review shows, I typically only will watch the first episode of something. Sometimes if I have time, I'll watch 2 episodes, but it's hard to base something on just one episode. So I sort of grade accordingly based on how I think it might go, whatever. But this, I was just like, I was all in right from the start. Once I saw this first episode, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a great show.
Well, that's why I had to go back and rewatch. I think what happened was I think we watched the whole thing in a day or two, if that.
Yep, I
My
can see it.
husband was hooked. He absolutely was like, we have to keep watching this. It's billed as a tragicomedy, which I think it kind of dances a little bit back and forth. It's a little more dramatic than I would call most comedies. But I was looking online at like things that would also be recommended, and it's all stuff that I love. Good Girls, Weeds, all of that kind
Yeah,
of thing. And that
yeah. I was just gonna say too. I've been going through the Weed seasons because at some point we're gonna have this reboot, I guess, if that's still on. But so I've been doing season reviews of Weeds, and yeah, like that is sort of the one of the big templates, I think, because it was on about 14, 15 years ago. It started for this like whole half hour drama thing, but that has a lot of funny moments. But it's certainly, I think, more of a drama than a comedy, even though it's sort of billed as a dark comedy, black comedy, much like this is. There's certainly funny moments in this show, but I think the best parts of the show are the gripping plot line.
They do so many twists and turns and wait, what just happened?
Yep.
It keeps you so interested. There were a couple questions I had while watching this. I was like, if you're going to a grief group, why would you bother lying? She had the miscarriages piece of it. I don't see why anybody would have begrudged her being in the group over that.
Right.
So the lying, the only thing I could come up with was trying to be like, oh, I'm also a widow, but I don't know. It just seemed like she didn't need to, like, set up this premise of lying to begin with. And do you think she was, stalking her to like find her in it? Like,
I was just going to ask you that because it's never quite revealed, at least in this season yet, of if she knew going into the meeting that Jen would be there, that she was, I don't know. My guess is yes, because I think at this point in time we've established that by the end of the season we've established that she is a little bit out there in her methods.
Oh, she's quite the freak. I mean, all of her, we've got incense, we've got, I think she had some sage she was smudging to, free spirit. So she's definitely out there. No offense to the people who love all that, but she's very spiritual.
But then there's moments where I think the way they reveal that car at the end of the pilot and her face of just stark terror, like, oh my God, what have I done befriending this woman whose husband I killed? So I don't know. What do you think?
So I think I felt like we were supposed to think it was a coincidence in that episode, but the more we learn about her and meet her, I feel like she was stalking her, and it kind of, how would she know she was going to do this? It's the only church in this whole huge town. This is a big city. This is in California. And someone makes a comment later on about, oh yeah, Pastor Wayne down at church. The same guy who does everything.
Right.
One church. So maybe Judy knew that this was the grief group. Like, it just seemed so bizarre, especially for someone who's not, Jen is not religious. She's like religion. So this grief group with the pastor, it just all seems very strange. I don't know how everybody decided this is where we're going to be.
Yes. So I don't know either. I'm on the fence. I think it would make sense if she did, just based on her, I don't know, craziness, I guess, for lack of a better word.
We got to find a better word.
I know. Her tenacity, let's say, in tracking down things and picking up on clues. And so she's definitely got her methods, but I don't know what I think. Even after the season is over, I still don't know if I think this was planned or a coincidence.
That's all I had for episode
Okay.
1, really. Except that I think we, at this point, are supposed to believe that Judy is basically off the wall bonkers with all
Yes.
she's doing. We're supposed to believe she's out of her mind.
Yes.
I change my mind as we go through. Because
Uh,
my next question I've written for episode 2 is,
oh, good.
who?
Oh, okay. All right. So episode 2, speaking of the word we just mentioned, maybe I'm crazy, it's called. So we learn a little bit more about Jen's background in this. She is a real estate agent, and she now works with Steve, the wonderful James Marsden, to sell his house. And at the same time, Judy is stalking her ex-fiance, Steve. And then she moves into Jen's guest house to be, more of a support figure for Jen and her 2 boys. And basically, Steve files a restraining order against Judy in this episode. And we learn a little bit more about what really happened, as we don't know necessarily that it's Jen's husband yet, but we see a flashback of Judy and Steve, Judy driving and Steve being a passenger, hitting someone with the car. And this is also the episode, I thought this happened later for some reason, but this is the episode where Jen takes a baseball bat to the car that's been speeding through her neighborhood. So we see.
I think that's one of the reasons why I was saying, who's more crazy at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why the episode of the title is Maybe I'm Crazy, because who are they even speaking about?
I had just everything playing straight through yesterday while I was working, kind of doing a couple things at the same time. And so I didn't go back and look at the names of the episode, I will admit. We also introduce Ed Asner as Abe. We get to see Judy's job.
Oh, yes.
And I think we really see her be a lot more human and less crazy. Like, it really, I think it kind of turns the tables. I think Jen's grief is affecting her judgment. Yeah,
that was a great twist to God, the writers of this show are so brilliant. Yeah, because I feel like even this early on, you really needed something to humanize Judy more, to not, at this point, all we know about her is she's a liar, she's a stalker. Where does her real personality lay? And yeah, we see her being very sweet here. And more praise to Linda Cardellini as the season goes on, but with these moments with the Ed Asner character, just her emotional toll that we see everything taking on this character, I think is shown more in these scenes than anything.
She has it's just the ups and downs.
Yeah.
And she just, working at the retirement home, I mean, you wouldn't think there's anything really going on. And she's just so sweet with those people.
Right.
So they also, she because she moves in, she starts helping Jen move on a little bit, and convinces her to get a storage unit. Did you think it was bizarre that she chose to get her storage unit? She's decided, thanks for telling me about this storage place. We're getting a storage unit to like in the same row, basically, where we're keeping this car that I've hit your husband with. So, I mean, I think she wanted to get caught. I think she has this guilt and she wants to be caught, and she doesn't know how to, she doesn't know how to help herself. She's like, I can't help myself. I just want to keep giving you breadcrumbs.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of factors with that, because even the whole thing of like stalking Steve to the point of getting a restraining order. I mean, at any point, Steve could have, especially once she knew Jen was working with him to sell the house, at any point, Steve could have just turned to Jen and be like, I need to tell you that my ex-fiance Judy, your best friend,
He does not know that in this episode, because I asked myself this question, when does he know that Jen is the wife? Does he know this? He does not find that out until episode 3.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't
He
quite
is,
enough. Okay.
so he's not, because I was like, why is he going along with any of this? That doesn't seem to
Right.
want to get away. He does find that out in the next episode. The whole
Okay.
thing about there was a line, and you said earlier about being crazy, men call women nuts and crazy too often. I was like, absolutely. I've
Yeah.
called like, oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're so nuts all the time, all the time. So
Yes.
are women really nuts? Or I would like your take on that, actually, because
Well, okay. I will say this much. Let's go back to Weeds for a second. I've certainly heaped on many things about Andy's character, for example. You've watched Weeds, yes?
yes. Did you say Andy? I couldn't.
Yes, Andy, Nancy's brother-in-law.
Yeah. Okay.
And I have certainly described him as a loser. I've certainly described him as a problem, and I don't know if I have called him crazy when I'm doing my Weeds reviews. I don't know. I mean, it's possible because he does a lot of nutso things. But I don't know. So that's an excellent point. And I certainly don't want to be part of the problem.
It was something that I was just sort of curious about, and I know that you and I are often on the same wavelength with things, and I was like, oh, is this something that just all the guys do? Is this something we only do to women? So I thought it was a really interesting, especially because I also looked up about the creator of the show and everything, and what she's done. I'm actually not a fan of a lot of her other work. She worked on like Two Broke Girls. No, I didn't write down her name.
I can pull it up. It's Liz Feldman.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily.
She did Up though, didn't she?
Wrong. Possibly.
No, maybe she didn't. That's not listed here.
I don't think so. It was other things that I was also just kind of lukewarm on, but I was looking at her personal life a little bit, and I was just like, this is a show about strong women, even who are strong even when in their weakest moments, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yes, but okay. So to sort of turn the narrative on its ear a little bit. Because yes, I don't know if I've called Andy on Weeds crazy or not. But I don't think I've ever called Nancy crazy either. And she does some out there things on Weeds too. So I don't know.
I mean, if you haven't called Nancy crazy or Andy, I mean, the two of them just keep making the worst.
Yeah. So I don't know. So maybe I used that word when we were talking about the pilot because that keeps coming up in this series in relation to these women, specifically Judy, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I've certainly called myself a psycho. I know that. But yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I see Liz Feldman has also written for The Great Hot in Cleveland. What a show.
I always wanted to watch that, but I never did, so I couldn't make a judgment on that.
Yeah, I've only seen a couple episodes, but it's certainly much better than Two Broke Girls, I think. Even not ever seeing it, just knowing that Betty White is involved, I think would lead us to believe that. All right, so did you have any other thoughts on episode 2?
No, I'm up to episode 3.
Okay, so episode 3 is called It's All My Fault, and in this one, we meet Ted's mother, Lorna. Ted is the deceased, and she's played by another one of our favorites, I think, right? I
don't know why I didn't bring this up in the back.
Oh, her name's Valerie Mahaffey, and she is, I don't know how you know her. I know her most from Desperate Housewives.
That would not be the way I would know her because I only watched the first season of that.
I mean, she was on an episode of Seinfeld, which of course
she's
big Seinfeld
one of
fan.
those just hit players that is around.
Yes,
everywhere.
She was on a Frasier. She was on a Ally McBeal. She was on an ER for 4 episodes as Joy Abbott. So you may know her from the big ER. She was in Glee for a few episodes. She was in Young Sheldon for a few episodes. She's been around. And she is always sort of, she's a little out there. All of her characters are a little bit,
it's a character. She plays character parts.
Yep. Yeah, she plays character parts, and everyone is sort of left of center, in many different ways. You know, some of them are like the Phoebe on Friends sort of, you know, that sort of thing, and some of them are more hippy dippy but whatever. But here she is sort of a real ball buster, really, and she does not like Jen too much. Classic mother-in-law, I think, on in a lot of ways. You know, blames Jen for a lot of their problems.
Well, and you know, being somebody who has some connections with the real estate world, I think that she's also pretty classic, you know, realtor, where it's just this persona. A lot
yes.
of
Yeah, that's a good point.
She has that, you know, one kind of facade to, you know, her client and the public, and but she's ruthless because, you know, these are commission-based jobs. And I think
right.
Christina Applegate, you know, her character Jen that's her job as well. I think they both play that, and I think both being in that world, them competitive. I mean, she and her business partner, who I think is adorable in this.
Yeah, me too.
They talk about, I forget what they call her. They say, they give her some kind of terrible name. I don't know what, some kind of monstrous whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Referring to each other, that it's her. So yeah, but she's great in this. She just knows how to push the buttons so well.
Yes.
That she brings out, you know, happy birthday to my son with a picture of them.
God.
You just shake your head when it comes out.
Yeah, well, and with sort of no real regard for how Jen is still in mourning, how her grandkids are still in mourning and reeling from everything. She just does whatever she wants to do. So, and we see her in a couple of episodes this season. I think at least one other one, maybe even two. But here, like you said earlier, this is the episode where Judy tells Steve that they are the ones at fault for Jen's husband's death. You know, Steve convinces Judy to, you know, really butt out and keep her mouth shut. And then we also have police for the first time questioning Jen about the car. At least, I'm sorry, for the first time that we've seen, at least. And
they're questioning her about the car she hit with
the vandalism. Right. At this point, they're questioning her about the vandalism, which Judy, you know, steps in, jumps to the fence, and says, "Oh, you know what? I did that." This is at the birthday party, by the way. And so she gets thrown into the slammer temporarily for that. And then we find at the very end of the episode, this is called "It's All My Fault," by the way. I think partially because there's a lot of blame going around. But at the end of the episode, we see Jen going on to Ted's laptop and finding messages that he apparently was having an affair with this Bambi woman. And that's the cliffhanger of this episode.
Yeah, she tries to play video games with her son, and this Bambi woman comes on, and the cheating.
Oh, you're back.
You're back, and I was like, God. I mean, we did not. It's interesting. We are getting to see, and I don't think we ever see him. We are getting to see Ted's life from all the people around Ted, and we have not seen him yet. All the flashbacks, he is off.
Boy, that's a great point. We don't.
I am not even sure we've seen a picture of him.
I don't believe we have. That's a great point. Yeah, we haven't.
So I'm curious if we're not going to, because I mean they did the picture of him as a baby on the cake. You know, he's a stay-at-home dad. We know that. We know he's cheating. We know he's a musician. But we're not seeing him. There were a couple other things. I think I think we're really, I mean, you already knew they were sort of well off, but I was really bothered by the fact that they didn't just get balloons and buy messages to them. They got the damn helium helium tank.
Gotta have the helium.
I was like, what are they going to get, a helium tank? I was like, oh yeah, they did. That's ridiculous. I think Lorna has a point. She asks, you know, this is really fast, this woman moving in. We thought that as well. And once we do find out that it's really only been a few months that he's even died, I thought maybe this is just me because I have roommates and everyone I've ever lived with, I had known, except for maybe one person, a couple people. But I mean, that was college. This doesn't really count.
Right.
A little more controlled. But, you know, people I moved in with after college, I knew. So.
Well, it certainly seems soon to have someone move in that has just completely lied to you. Like in the pilot, we find out why she's really at this meeting, and it's not because of her husband passing away, which she says it is. I mean, that's a pretty big lie to connect with somebody on. And that's really all we know about this woman at this point, that yeah, she decides to let her move in. So I agree. And then, you know, the kids have a little bit to say about it as well. We haven't really talked much about the kids. They, I think, will come up a little more later, but
I love the younger son. He's
great.
Of my favorite characters. He's a great actor. Totally believable. I mean, I like both the kids are great actors. I think that they're playing this really well, very believable. Because there are definitely some shows on TV where I'm not a fan of the children actors at all.
I agree. Although lately there have been some good ones. I mean, I know neither of us really are in love with Blackish anymore, but the kids on that show are all
the kids
great.
On Blackish are fabulous. I think the kids on Young Sheldon are fabulous.
Yep, absolutely. I think the kids on the Connors.
There's a kid on A Million Little Things that I just can't stand, and I think that's anytime I think child actor, this kid comes in my brain, and I had
to stop watching that show because the acting is so bad. I just couldn't anymore.
We're on the same page.
Yes. All right. So let's move on to episode 4. This is called "I Can't Go Back." So Steve is trying to get Judy rather, to move back in with him at this point, so she can sort of not be surrounded by Ted's things anymore and be surrounded by Ted's family. And then meanwhile, Judy, now that she knows about this Bambi person, has tracked her down a little bit more. She turns out to be a waitress, and Jen and Judy meet her where she works. She thinks she's meeting Ted, and Judy lets her know that Ted has passed on, and that she is his widow. And
this is where we find out he's been dead for 3 months.
Okay, was this the episode where they specifically said that? Yeah.
Yeah. I think we see Judy's crazy flag really fly again, where she pretends to be Jen with Bambi. She's like, no, he's dead, and he was my husband. And it's Judy saying this. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Then when she goes off and tells Jen, that she did this, and she confronted Bambi because Jen rather didn't really have the guts to. And then she says that after the whole affair thing, that she's glad Ted is dead, which I'm sure.
Well, Ted said she was dead. Ted goes.
That's right.
Ted goes, that his wife was dead. I really wanted them to explore that more. I wanted to hear a little more from Bambi, because I guess she met him because they're both musicians. I feel like I just keep seeing this theme of musicians cheating in the media, which I'm not sure. Love that whole thing. I mean, there's that. There were some other things that were, but that was one. I think it's funny that she thinks she's been ghosted, and I'm like, yeah, you've been ghosted.
Yes. Yeah, that was a funny line. The flashback in this episode is where we flash back often to the scene of the crime. But in this particular one, we see a little more of Judy's humanity, because this is where we see Judy wanted to go back after hitting Ted and see if he was okay and help him. And Steve says, no, punch it, keep going.
So when the episode opens, they're in bed, and his wake up, his alarm clock is this self-help affirmation podcast. And and when we find out more about him and sort of who he is, I was just thinking, that's like tools for tools. Like, he's not, the more we see of him, they're just chipping away at the nice guy, James Martin, that we saw at the very beginning. You're like, oh yeah, she must be crazy. And now I'm thinking it's a classic, how much did he drive her to this breaking point that we're seeing?
Right.
I love, and I actually read somewhere that Christina Applegate insisted that they write in that the character have the double mastectomy, because that is something that she does help with breast cancer. I love that they wrote that in.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great little tidbit.
Does that come up in this episode?
Yeah, well, she says that they're not
She's wondering
real,
why.
but I don't think, I'm not sure we find out about the fact that they were hadn't been together in a while for a little bit, but we find out about that piece. Yeah, that's probably the biggest pieces in this. God,
I love Christina Applegate. I just want to say it again. I think we find out later that it's a double mastectomy, but yeah, this is when she's going over.
She says they're not real. She says, I think that she had the gene. She does not say about.
Okay.
She doesn't say necessarily that he was no longer interested.
Right, but she was going over scenarios of why he would cheat on her, why he might cheat on her. I think in this episode, and that was sort of, was I not attractive to him anymore, kind of thing. So yeah, that's cool that she had them write that in. All right, so up next is I've Got to Get Away. This is
this might be my least favorite.
I was just gonna say this is probably my least favorite episode.
I was bored.
Yeah,
watching it a second time.
If any of them could be lifted out, I think this would be the one. Not really a ton is revealed here, but the general synopsis is they go away, Jen and Judy, to this grief retreat, but they treat it as if it's Club Med, and they're just drinking and flirting. Jen meets up with another recent widower, Jason.
Played by Steve Howey. I love him. Shameless and things.
Yep.
I'm a big fan. I will say they insist on making this poor actor take his shirt off for every
and everything.
And then the women have to basically ogle the fact that he has the most beautiful chest you've ever seen.
It's not bad, for sure. So that goes badly because he's still not over his grief. But she, of course, is in this weird place of like, well, F my husband because he cheated on me before he died, this and that. But to me, the only really interesting part about this episode is when we meet Nick, who is the off-duty police detective. And you know him, I'm sure, from Grey's. As Ryan
although I couldn't remember that until you just said it. I was wondering why he was familiar, and then I didn't go back to look.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in a bunch of things. He's also been on This Is Us, which of course we both love. He's part of the recurring cast of that, so I think he's in the new season of that. But he's great here. I'm glad that this was the episode that introduced him, because that's the only thing of real relevance in this episode, I thought. But essentially, Judy introduced Jen.
We need to introduce Nick the cop. I also really liked the scene with Pastor Wayne. There's a scene where I think Christina Applegate is smoking a cigarette after the whole failed hookup thing, and Pastor's drinking, and they have a real nice heart-to-heart. But other than that, it really, there was a lot of singing and people doing karaoke, and
Yeah.
it was like they took all the filler from a season of something, excuse me,
Yes.
put it into one episode. I was like, all right, we can move on already.
Throwaway for sure.
So let's
But
move on.
they could have introduced Nick in any other capacity and it would have been fine. But Oh My God is next. This is we finally get some stuff about Jen's kids in this episode, which we'll talk about in a second. But first, let's go back to Nick for a second. Jen and Judy meet up with him at the location where Ted was killed, and he wants to go to talk to the local police. Diana Maria Riva plays Anna Perez, the police detective on the case. And
was she on the L Word?
I was going to say, do you not love her? She's been on many things. I didn't watch the L Word. Let me look. No, she hasn't been on the L Word, but she was on The West Wing. If you watched that, she was. Let's see, what do you watch that she was on?
I know, that's what I'm looking.
She's been in like more of one episode.
Well, sometimes I remember people just from one episode.
I mean, yeah, she's been on a lot of things. She was in. You don't watch Madam Secretary. You don't watch Ghost Whisperer. She was on The West Wing. You watched that.
The West Wing is looking like maybe the only
Sabrina
thing.
the Teenage Witch. She was on a long time ago. Party of Five. I don't think you watched that. So yeah, she was on an episode of Reba. She was on an episode of The X-Files.
No, she just looks a lot like the one woman.
But she's always great. She runs, on a lot of different shows. Sunnyside, if you ever saw that this season, I know that was kind of a bomb, but she was a regular on Sunnyside. But she's great here. She's, no nonsense, doesn't have time for things, but at the same time has really pushed this case to the side. And
well, Judy, they start giving you the statistics. 8% of hit and runs are solved, and that's when they have evidence. Is kind
right
of with this. So
yeah,
Judy's so funny. She's asking all these questions, and half the time she thinks she's in the clear, and half the time she's like trying to not be in the clear and give them more reasons to look for her. It's really.
I think it's a lot of questions to figure out how what the percentage is that she's going to be found out. I think most of her questions to Nick or Anna are all like, in her own mind, like, all right, statistically, what are my chances of getting away with this? But
there were some parts of this episode I really liked, though.
Me too.
I loved the compassion from the school. We see the older son dealing drugs.
Yes. Yeah, let's talk about the kids for a little bit. This is really the kid-heavy episode.
This is a big
Charlie, the older kid, who is played by Sam McCarthy, he is found to be dealing drugs, and so she gets called in. And yes, the school is very good about, look, we have zero tolerance, but because of everything you've gone through, let's just not do it anymore. Like, we're not going to expel you. Suspended only, but yeah. And then we find out that he has a gun at the end of the episode because Judy wants to scare him. So she has, our buddy Nick come over that was
a great scene.
Great scene. And, they're doing the whole drug dealing thing, trying to, scared straight type thing. And then we learn he's got a gun in his bag and everything changes.
It's so funny. That scene starts off like almost like a farce comedy, and on a dime turns into this heavy scene. And then at the very, very end, we now have we have that little girl Shandy. I want to talk about her.
Yes,
sociopath. So funny. So funny in every scene. Judy talking with her. So she's an eyewitness to the crime. She found the body.
Yes, she found the body. She took home a souvenir. which was the tail light or the headlight or whatever. And yeah, and we see she's in the younger son Henry's grade. That's why they're there in the first place, to see this play or whatever. And then at the end of the episode, the cliffhanger is that Judy goes to the storage locker because she wants to, hide the car from there. She wants to take it out and put it somewhere else, but it ain't there. It is missing. I think I figured out where it was before the next episode, but
I mean, we'd already seen we'd already seen some things from Steve, so I mean, I wasn't shocked when the car wasn't there.
Right.
I don't think that was anything that was necessarily a cliffhanger for us as the audience. I don't think they needed to be. I thought the bigger wow was at the recital where the younger son, what is his name? Henry. Shows to have all these pent-up anger issues dealing with his dad, because up till then we've seen him be very sweet and just like go with the flow and I don't mind and all of these things, and he just blows up in a pretty funny scene, but also kind of gut-wrenching to find out what's going on, and he ends up joining the Holy Harmonizers.
Yes.
At Pastor Wayne's church with the I mean, I guess we find out that her real estate associate goes to this church, which I guess is this big connection to why they've gone to the church and everything. But it's weird to me about the school is also directing to the, just that, I don't know. I was still like, is this just one church? What's going on?
It's the church of the town, yes.
I don't have much in episode 7, though.
Okay. Yeah, episode 7 doesn't even have that big of a synopsis here. It's called I Can Handle It. This is Detective Perez really takes kind of front and center here. Jen brings the car part to Perez because the family brings it to her as sort of, the mom makes the daughter bring it over and says, look, this is, from the scene, my little psycho daughter took this and whatever. So Jen brings the car part into the detective, and Judy goes to Steve to find out what happened to the car, the Mustang, and he shows her that he's taking the car apart.
They spend a lot of time taking this car apart. A lot of time. Basically, it's taking the car apart, Jen falling apart, which was that was a great scene showing the house. She starts to deteriorate. Her professional life is being affected, and she splits with her business partner in that episode.
Yep.
But that's really everything that happens here. It's really next episode, I think.
That's true. And at the end of the episode, we do learn that Detective Perez has figured out with her team that this part of the car belongs to a 1966 Mustang. So right away we see, Judy's face like, oh my God, this is going to come back on me. So yes, that's that episode. Like you said, it's a lot of buildup for this next episode, number 8, Try to Stop Me. And this is where Jen, Judy, and Nick sort of do their own. This is, to me, I think probably the most comedic episode of all of them.
Yes, and I mean, kind of like the first half, and then
I guess that's true. The stakeout parts.
The stakeout parts are pretty funny until Jen goes on one by herself.
Goes off on her own, and then it turns
which I thought was really apropos. They have the really nice no means no moment, which you kind of I think everybody saw coming from the moment that guy opened the door.
Yeah.
Talk about someone who made to play a sleazeball. I don't even remember.
Yeah. So they have this big list of all the 1966 Mustang owners. So, Judy's kind of trying to throw them off the trail. And at the same time, she thinks she might be pregnant because her and Steve had this night of love a couple episodes ago. She learns he's actually in a different relationship now with possibly 2 women, I guess, at the office. I don't know if they work at the office or they just come to his office for the sex, but And then at the end of the episode, Detective Nick stumbles upon this art gallery that they had referenced early in the episode of being on the list of owners of this 1966 Mustang, and he sees Judy's name on some of the art and is piecing two and two together.
I thought that was a great moment.
Great cliffhanger.
I really loved the way they did that. You know, him seeing your name, seeing the art, us seeing the art. I was not shocked when it turns out that she isn't pregnant.
Yeah, that was not shocking.
I was like, well, when they leave the test and they come back hours later and they're like, no, it has 2 lines. I'm like, you have to look at it right away. It's gonna have 2 lines hours later. So I was like, I feel like maybe they didn't think the audience knew a lot with that. I feel like there's enough women watching the show that people know that. So that was shocking. I think that it was real and they didn't make her pregnant. I think
yes.
Me really frustrated.
Yeah, I thought that was good. I thought the main reason for that plot line was so she had a reason to bust in on Steve at the office and find him in this other affair.
I also think it sort of forced the breakup with Nick. She she tells him about this. And so she's already broken up with him. And
you're right.
And
I forgot that was in this episode. Yeah.
Yeah, and he continues with the police piece of everything, but now she doesn't have the nice guy, doesn't have the ex-fiance, doesn't have the baby, and it's all starting to come to a head here.
Right. So next is episode 9. I have to be honest. This is when Nick goes to the gallery, encounters good old Steve, and starts probing him about this Mustang. Oh, you know, that must belong to one of our artists. I don't know. Da 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 da. And he's like, okay, well, it's registered to the art gallery, so I think you do. And that was a very good scene. I thought that sort of standoff.
I thought the two of them together, they're great. I love the beginning with Christina Applegate dancing. She said she always wanted to be a dancer. She was doing the real estate to support them.
Yeah.
And she's gorgeous doing that.
Yep.
And so talented. Her son moves out. The kids move out for a little bit. So that's, a little sad for her. But you get to... This is where we actually are going to find out. There's just so many things that happen at the end of this episode.
Yeah, this whole episode is like full of bombshells. So first, Judy goes to Perez to try and turn Steve in for money laundering to sort of get the heat off of herself.
As the audience member, you're kind of wondering, wait, is this true? Is it not true? And then you're kind of putting together all of these little clues. Oh, we've got the car and the name of the gallery. Oh,
right.
I
assumed it was true when she said
it.
I was like, that makes sense.
Seconds. She's not always great at lying. Somebody makes up a stupid lie where you're like, you could have gotten out of this. I wrote down somewhere like, you're 44 and you couldn't come up with a better lie than that. I don't know episode. I know that's a great throwback to our big but I mean, I felt that a couple of times. So that's why I was like, is he money laundering? And I'm like, oh, he's money laundering.
Right. So then, God, you're right. So much happens in this episode. These last two are just all powder kegs. So then we learn from Jen that her and Ted had a huge fight the night of the death. So she blames him for being hit in the first place because why was he out so late? Going for a jog, whatever. So then while Perez is collecting evidence from Steve's storage locker based on the money laundering thing, the lead that she got from Judy, Perez notices the motor oil on the floor, so she's sort of wondering about that. And then the biggest bomb of the episode, Judy straight up tells Jen that she is the one responsible for Ted's death. She was the one driving the car. It's her car.
And I love how that scene,
oh my God,
gets played for comedy. And at the very first couple lines, like, no, I did it. And she's like, no, it's not your fault. She's like, no, it's my, like, it's a little back and forth. And I love the line, you can die. What can
yeah.
I want
says,
to do that.
Yep. What can I do? How can I make this better? What can I do? You can die. Woo! What a bomb. Were you shocked that she told Jen that? Because I certainly was.
I was definitely shocked. I didn't think it would necessarily happen in the first season.
I didn't either.
Until we see the next episode, and then I see, okay, what we're setting up for. But yes,
Right.
I did not think we were going to get there that fast. I thought we were going to dance around this a little longer.
Is this the episode where Ed Asner dies too?
Yeah, I was going to say, we've got the death of Abe.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was going to happen this quickly either.
But he was a voice of reason in these last couple episodes to Judy. Basically, yes. He was like, you killed that man, didn't you? And no judgment, just as a matter of fact, you did this, right?
And at the very end, we have where, Jen has said, oh, I cannot open Dad's safe. I cannot get to the gun. I don't know the combination. And you see her at the end of the episode open the safe and take out the gun. So at this point, you are, you're reeling what is she going to do? Again, so much that happens in episode 10. So I think we've hit the highlights in 9.
Yeah, let's hit episode 10 called You Have to Go. This is the season finale. And by the way, thank God this show was a hit, because Netflix lately has been really cutting off their shows that don't do well just at the 1 season mark. If this show ended the way this episode, I would have lost my mind.
They've done this with a couple different, even networks have done this lately with a couple different, shows. They end at the 1 season on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Tends to be these shows kind of like this, and then some of these other dramatic shows that are just dogs go on forever. So I'm not really sure what,
Yeah.
have different taste than other people, but
thank goodness this was a hit, so we're getting a season 2, because what happens in this episode, is so Jen's throwing out all Judy's stuff at the house, installing
burning her stuff.
Oh yeah, burning, all gone. I want every trace of this woman, gone from my life, out of my house, out of my life. And then she got a security system installed, which, we learn she's now carrying this gun she found at the safe, or got from the safe, I should say.
Judy goes to the bank.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, I haven't even gotten there yet. Yep.
Oh,
Judy goes
maybe I've got stuff out of the order. Here.
So Jen brings the confession to Perez. She says, Judy did it. Perez is like, okay, cool. I can't really do anything with that. It's an ongoing investigation because of the money laundering, which now we're like,
that's what I meant by this.
Now we're like, okay, now we see she wasn't necessarily trying to throw Steve under the bus, maybe for the money laundering. Maybe she was, maybe she wasn't, but it's pretty convenient that now she can't really be investigated because of this.
This is Judy's insurance. This money laundering is so much bigger than the hit and run. We've got he he is in it's America. It's all about where you're going to take down people with the money.
Right.
If you killed someone, if it's got like a RICO case and things like that. So yeah, absolutely. We've seen him talking to all various kinds of people on the phone. Judy gets real smart and tries to think, how can I help? How can I re-ingratiate myself with with Jen? She knows Jen's got money problems because the relationship's not going well. She
gives Jen all of this money. Jen tells her, get lost. I will kill you if I ever see you again. So Steve then goes to the bank account and tries to get the money. It is all gone as it's a joint account. So then he comes to Jen's house looking for Judy. He admits, yes, I was there when Ted was killed. They argue about sort of the semantics about what may or may not have happened. We as the audience saw what happened in the flashback, so we know, but Jen, of course, doesn't. She threatens that he needs to leave, and basically she goes back. This was a very sad scene where Judy goes to where Ted was killed and maybe wants to kill herself. As Jen and Steve are getting into it back at Jen's place, Judy is, contemplating killing herself at the same spot Ted was killed, and receives a call from Jen saying, you need to come over right away. And here, the cliffhanger of the season is at the end when they are looking over the pool at Steve's dead body. So we, of course, as the audience, know what happened. And yeah, that's where the season ends.
I think that Jen is already forgiving her. I mean, she hates Ted. With what was going on, they'd already had the fight. She knows so much more about him. I think, and then you hear her talking herself into Judy being a good person when she's talking to Steve and saying, Judy's a good person. She would have gone back. She wanted to go back.
Right.
This is you. This is
right.
This is your
well,
fault.
and this is a plot point we haven't talked about yet, but in these last couple episodes here, Jen and Steve are supposed to be in this huge real estate deal that Steve pulls out from under her and doesn't even tell her about.
Right.
So she's already got sort of, a really bad impression of him from that.
Well, and the reason I think he's pulled out is because they've lost that money.
Right. Sure.
He's trying to, he's laundering this money through buying this house. That's
sure.
What's happening. When she takes the money, so that's sort of a chain reaction from something that Judy has really done.
Right.
So that's a little iffy. And I mean, I don't even know if Judy knows that she has that Jen has that money yet, because
I don't think so.
Given to Henry in the bottom of his bird carving that Judy gives him for his baptism. It's a whole thing. But I don't know if they necessarily know all of that yet. I think what's going to really come out this next season is going to be what can they do with this money, because this is dirty money.
Right.
And what, I think this is going to be now, this is where I was talking about sort of good girls. We've got, what have I done? Me and my women are going to try and take care of something.
Yeah. Good Girls actually, oh God, what a show that is too. All the cliffhangers of that show as well. Okay, so before we get into more predictions and stuff for season 2, anything else? Any final thoughts on how great season 1 is? All of these people, all of the characters. I think the writing to this show is brilliant. So we've talked about how I'm going through Weeds. I'm on Weeds season 6, I think, and the first couple seasons of Weeds were like really great. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And it's like, at this point, I think the writers are getting lazy and we're seeing a lot of the same things happening. And this show to me is like every episode, except for that stupid retreat episode, every episode of this just hits so hard. The callbacks to like episode 2, or like, oh, this person mentioned this one thing in episode 3 as a total, like, just in conversation. And then it comes up again, to us.
I think my only downfall is going to be watching it through a lens of having watched other shows and being like, oh, you've also killed someone by hitting them with a club and them being in a pool.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not going to say any show names, but
right.
you know
That's
what I mean. Like
that was the cliffhanger of season 6.
So I'm like, well, I hope things aren't getting recycled too much. One of the writers on this, who wrote 10 episodes, of Dead to Me. That's the one who wrote the most. Is actually done more. It's Kelly Hutchinson, and she's actually done more acting than she has. Not that there's a ton of that even, but she's really only written this and 2 shorts. And so I would be excited to see more from to say staff writer. I'm thinking they're writing this more of as a team. But if you look at the series writing credits, there's not that many people, and a lot of people are only 1 episode. So,
Right.
you know, they've got a lot of different hands in the pot, but I think that they're really doing a nice job. My only concern is when I look at this, cast, you're seeing 20 episodes. You know, there's going to be another 10 episodes. You're seeing 10 episodes with Judy Hale. Or 20 episodes with Judy Hale, and everything else is 10 episodes for the main characters. So I'm a little concerned.
Oh, that's interesting. Well,
where are
maybe
the rest of our people going?
Maybe people just don't know yet. I mean, it's hard when you look at like an IMDb or something, how many episodes people are in. But certainly, unless we see him in flashbacks, James Marsden is gone.
Yes.
Which is a real bummer. But okay, so
but where is Christina Applegate?
Well, Christina Applegate's definitely going to be on it. You know that. I think it's more their press people that fill up those things. So maybe her agent just wasn't on top of it or something. But
got it.
But yes, we know, of course, she will be a part of it. And nominated, we should say, for Best Actress at the Emmys this past year. We should never slight that. One thing that I'm very excited about in season 2, just from a casting perspective, I don't know much about what's going to happen, but if you remember from our Best of the Decade TV cast, I had said that my sort of MVP for the 1 season shows that I've loved is Natalie Morales, who has been on Abby's, and she was on Santa Clarita Diet, and she was in a couple of the shows. I think they got 1 season. She is going to be in a regular recurring role in season 2 of Dead to Me. Oh. So I love seeing her in everything.
I don't think that is somebody that I had a lot of I don't know if I've had a lot of exposure to her.
She also the show The Grinder with Rob Lowe and Fred Savage, which I thought was brilliant. She was on that. You actually might know her. She was in 3 episodes of Girls as Clementine. Does that ring true at all?
That was one of those things where I kind of watched all the episodes but didn't go back and rewatch.
Did you see Santa Clarita Diet or no?
No, I did not.
Okay, because she plays a pretty prominent role in there. She was on Parks and Rec for 12 episodes as Lucy. She was a main character in Trophy Wife. She was the best friend in Trophy Wife. So she's been on a lot of my favorite 1 season shows of the last 10 or 12 years.
Thinking I might have watched her mostly in White Collar.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because she's definitely familiar face here, but
yeah,
it's not.
So she's going to be in season 2, which I'm excited about. Other than that, I don't really know much about anything else that's going to happen. But I think season 2 will focus on obviously what do we do now. I think the money laundering thing obviously kind of goes away if he's dead, but
I don't think the money laundering goes away if he's.
You don't think it goes away?
Because
you think it comes back on her, on Judy?
Well, I think it's now going to be where's the money.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Where's the money? But also, now we still haven't found this car. Detective Perez found the blood splatter the oil splatter in the. We
did see him drive the car to Mexico in pieces. So I don't know if they're going to be able to find the car.
I don't think they're going to be able to find it either. But I think it's going to be odd to Detective Perez that Jen came in and blamed Judy for the accident, and now Judy and her are best friends again, and Judy's ex-husband, who she blamed for money laundering, is dead. I think that is going to be an interesting red flag. I'd love to see more of Officer Nick, Detective Nick, whatever.
Yes, I would love for him to come back. I kind of almost would like him to be reinstated as a cop, so we
I would too.
More more of an official role from him, because I'm not sure. I can't tell how much he's going to be on board with everything yet. You know,
Yeah.
he was on board to fake being the the cop to bust the drugs, but now we've got involved. He's been lied to. He knows about this Mustang and that Judy's the owner. He's got lots of suspicions. I don't think that Nick can go away.
And I don't want him to. I really, I love that character.
You know me, I love any kind of religion in the media. Really is fascinating. I would love to see a little more
with the church,
a little more with the
Pastor
church,
Wayne.
just because I think it's intriguing. Pastor Wayne and what I can't find his name. What's his name? The guy who is no, it's not him. Chris Doyle, is that the played by Max Jenkins? Is that the real estate? Yeah, I think that's
the real estate buddy. Yeah, that's Max Jenkins. Yeah, I'm not sure if we're gonna see more of him or not. I mean,
he was a nice little bit of comedy.
He was certainly some good comic relief. Yeah.
I don't want the show to go the way of being 100% drama. I
don't either.
That the little fresh one-liners.
I also don't want it to go more broad. Like Weeds in like season 3 or 4 went super broad with their comedy between the Kevin Nealon character and Andy, and it was just like, or am I watching I Love Lucy or Weeds? Like what's going on? I don't want them to do that.
No, Kevin Nealon being brought to more of a main role did make it a little bit more Cheech and Chong.
Silly, yeah.
I wanted it to be. I don't know if we're really. I don't think that we're in danger of doing that yet.
No, I think we need to stay with smart comedy. Like Good Girls is such a great example because that's in I think season 3 now, and still it's like as good as it has ever been.
Yes, and I think they do really. It really is sort of the same kind of genre, just the longer format. And I think the shorter format actually is what works here, though. I don't think you need to drag it out. I think sometimes
I agree.
Recycle some things that don't need to be done over again because they have that that time block and they have the episode number they need to hit. So.
I agree. I think 10 half-hour episodes is perfect for this kind of show. I think we're in that age of television where it works. I mean, Good Girls never gets a full season. I mean, Good Girls only airs about 13 episodes every season on NBC. And once you cut out commercials, they're about 42-minute episodes, so they're not that much
these
longer
were
than
full
these either.
half-hour, 33 maybe a couple times, which is why they felt a little long, and I was like, wait, am I still in the same episode? Because I'm used to that 22 minutes, breakneck speed of the regular sitcom kind of.
Yeah, a regular episode of Young Sheldon is literally like 20 and a half minutes or something. It's like ridiculous. But yes, you get the full half hour, like you said, I think the longest one's 33 minutes. But all right, well, we're
ready for Friday
on here. We've covered so much ground. God, what a season! I guess we should grade. I always give the grades on the show. I mean, this to me is top of the line. One of the great shows that's on right now. I would absolutely give this an A, which is what I gave the pilot. So, for the whole season to be as good as that great pilot is saying something.
Absolutely. I'm in the same boat. A for sure. Even the worst episode, I think, is only about a B minus. So
yeah, I think it would probably be an A plus if that episode didn't exist.
I know they could have just lifted it. You really, there just
it's a throwaway.
Grief group, one episode, it's over. They're done.
Right. I agree.
This was great.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa, for joining. You're always a treat to have on the channel here. We're going to soon do the one for season 2 that goes up, I guess, this week. And so in the next week and a half, we'll bring you a season 2 review. I don't usually binge. People that watch my channel know that I am not, and you as my friend know, I am not a binger.
But it really depends on my schedule and what I can convince other people to binge. This is one of my shows that I watch with my husband, which is, we don't have a lot of those that we both agree on all the time. So we're going to try our best. It might be the end of next week that I can
Luckily, we're
done.
all quarantined. So luckily you have more time than you normally would to coordinate your schedules with Jason.
That's true.
But yes, I'm probably going to bang this out in binge form this weekend. I'm real pumped about it. But yes, thank you for joining, and we'll see you again, Melissa, for season 2 of Dead to Me. And everybody else, we'll see you again soon here on the channel. Thanks for watching. Bye.